What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and I've got 7 of my best bets on this upcoming 5-game slate, and I've got a ton of analysis to go with it. Now, before we get into my best bets, we've got to be accountable for the plays that I've given out. We had a 2-1 day in the game between the Wings and the Aces. First up, we crushed T-Rex McCowan to go over her rebound line. Sweat-free, really. 6 rebounds in the first quarter. Now, not only was that easy, VIP members also cashed this monster bet. Tierra McCowan for 13-plus rebounds at plus $1,500 odds. That's how you drive profit, boys. Now, we also picked Satu Sabali over her points line. Pretty sweat-free day with all of our winners. But we did have a loser on the day, and it was Kelsey Plum. Asia Wilson went crazy, and upon reflection, I actually thought that could happen. Asia Wilson going over was one of my leans. So now that I think about it, that Kelsey Plum play was pretty shit. But either way, another day smashing profits. We're only a few days into this week, but VIP has already cashed 20 units profit on the WNBA alone. So that's why I've created this basketball-only plan that you can sign up to now. Use the code SWISH and you'll get 60% off. The discount, once it's applied, will run for the next 12 months. So with that discount, you're looking at about $40 or less a month. And even a $10 unit better would have made $200 in the past few days. And that's more than enough to cover your subscription for this plan. Plus some, there's a few $100 unit bettors in there who are up thousands already. So lock it in early and let's rob these sports books for everything that they've got. So the promo code and the link to join in the video description below, and they'll be in the pinned comment. Now let's go. All right, we're straight into Outlier, my best friend Outlier. If you're interested in checking this out and doing your own research, the link is in the video description below. It also comes with a 7-day free trial. Outlier are amazing. That's all I'm going to say about it. First game we're looking at, it's the Sun versus the Fever. I've got a couple of looks in this one. Some popular, some you probably never would have thought of. But we're looking at Marina Mabrey. Mabry? Shit, I don't know. But we're looking at her over her points line. On here, it's at 13.5. For VIP members, when I sent this out, 12.5 I managed to find. But do some line shopping because I like her over in this game. Now, since she's joined the Connecticut Sun, she's over in 3 out of 5 games, averaging 14.4 points per game. Nothing amazing. Her role has been changing. She's had games with high usage rate, high minute. She's had games off the bench. I think they've really found a spot for her. She's a spark plug off the bench now since moving into that bench role. 24 points against the Sky, 15 points against the Liberty. And if we're talking about matchups, this one is perfect. Firstly, the Indiana Fever, they allow the most points per game to guards, and the playstyle suits. The Fever are the worst team at defending spot-up shooting, and they're at the bottom in defending the pick and roll. They don't defend above the break or the mid-range very well, and this is where Marina Mabrey scores 66% of her points. Now, she's had 3 games against the Fever this season, albeit she was on the Sky. She scored 15, 22, and 6 points. The game where she scored 6 points, she was 2 from 14. The 14 shots means the volume's real positive. So I'm liking Marina Mabrey here to beat up on this Fever bench. She's the best shooter that this team has, and this Fever team, they don't defend the outside at all. So I'm liking Mabrey to get some buckets today. The next one, you can't really touch a Fever game without betting on Caitlin Clark. Can you? I'm sure you can. I've done it many times before because her lines be high as hell. But what I do like is taking players with high lines to take their under. So for Caitlin Clark today, I'm looking at her rebounds plus assist prop, and I'm looking at under. So this has already moved to 13.5. Shit. VIP members, when I tipped this out to them, was at 14.5. Either way, I think the analysis is very much the same. So she's under 14.5 in 3 out of her last 4 since the Olympic break. You can see it here. This is the Olympic break. She's gone for 25, 15, 14, 13, and 14. Even at the line at 13.5, you're looking at one a little bit lower than her average. Now, what people are taking into account here is the matchup, because this matchup is awful for her. The Connecticut Sun, they allow the fewest rebounds and the fewest assists to guards this season. What's probably the stronger play and probably more important analysis is how has Caitlin Clark gone against this team? Check this out. In 3 games against the Connecticut Sun this season, she had 3 assists in 1 game, no rebounds. Then she had 5 assists and 3 rebounds. And then in most recent matchup, she only had 2 assists. Now, she's playing a lot better now, and she's getting more minutes now than she did before. So I'm not expecting a performance this bad from her. But in saying that, are we expecting her to get close to what she's been averaging post the Olympic break against the #1 team at defending the shit that we're trying to bet on? I don't think so. So I think 14.5 was way too high. Even at 13.5, I'd still take it. Just seems like such a tough line. Now, one other bit of analysis that I've done that probably no one else is going to look into is this. Now, there are only 2 teams who rank near the top for both rebounds allowed and assists allowed, and that's the Liberty and the Sun. Now, Caitlin Clark, she's played those teams 7 times this season, and in those 7 games, she's covered this line once, averaging 10.3 rebounds plus assists. So that's the nail in the coffin for me. I found that data out, and I was like, we take it. Caitlin Clark, under her points and rebounds, yes, it might be at 13.5 now, provided you get close to plus money, I'd definitely be taking that. Jumping into the next game, it's the Mystics versus the Sky. And this first one was actually a strong lead of mine. It was one of the last bets that I placed. I did consider it. I thought about it. I wasn't so sure. And then eventually I was like, fuck it. We're going to do this. And we're looking at Brittany Sykes here. And I like her over on her points and rebounds prop. It's at 22.5, pretty decent odds for Brittany Sykes. Now, she rejoined this team post the Olympic break. She's played 5 games since then. She's covered this line in 2 out of 5 of them, right? Which happened to be her most recent ones against the Spark and the Storm. Her scoring's been excellent, 28 points and 20 points in those last 2 games. Now, I wouldn't feel too bad about a lot of this data that we see in the red from when she initially came back from the break, because she came back from an injury. We see it here in her minutes. She was restricted, and we're slowly getting her back up to about 30 minutes. So you can expect to see 30 minutes of action or more for Brittany Sykes in this one. Now, if we talk about the matchups here, she's up against the Chicago Sky. And if you just use outlier data, you'd see the Sky, they're ranked towards the middle in both points and rebounds allowed to guard. Nothing crazy going on there. But it also tells us that the matchup is not tough. It's not a horrible matchup like Caitlin Clark versus Sun. Now, if we think about how Brittany Sykes plays, and if you've watched her, this would make sense to you. But if you haven't watched her, let me spell it out to you. She scores a lot of her points in the pick and roll. She scores it in transition. Plus, she's also very good at getting to the free throw line. Now, in terms of the pick and roll, the Sky defend the quick pick and roll quite well. But at the same time, Kennedy Carter, who's their best proven defender, she got a little bit of the Rona. COVID King got her, so she out. So that impacts your ability to defend the pick and roll. But this Sky team, they are terrible at limiting transition buckets. They also don't defend the rim very well. So Brittany Sykes has any success penetrating, she should get some easy lays in there. Actually have a very similar defensive structure as the Seattle Storm, who, when I looked at it initially, I was like, I don't love this matchup. But Sykes did. She absolutely tore the Storm apart, 20 points and 6 rebounds in that game. The Washington Mystics are also going to be without Shakira Austin. So there's no one on the bench who can replace her scoring. So there could be actual opportunities for Sykes as well. Based on what I've seen in the lineups, Washington probably going to play a lot of small ball. So that means Brittany Sykes will probably play the 3, might even spend some time at the 4. They're going to go real small at times. It'll improve their offense, but it means she's going to get a lot more mismatches when she has the ball. And when on defense, she's probably going to be in better positions to get some rebounds. So I'm liking Brittany Sykes here over her points and over her rebounds prop. Let's go. Staying in the same game. We're going with, what's her name? Angel Reese. That's who we're talking about here. That's the wrong freaking tab. Reese. So you can't believe what I'm seeing here. So Angel Reese over 14.5 rebounds. All the other bets that I've taken, I've sent out. It looks like the lines have moved. I sent this play out for Angel Reese to go over 14.5 rebounds, and it hasn't moved too much, and it makes sense, right? 14.5 rebounds is fucking crazy. It's got to be the highest line that we've seen all season in the WNBA for a rebound prop. Now, Angels recorded 20-plus rebounds in 3 consecutive games, which is absurd. Doesn't make any sense. But I think she can do it here against Washington, and here's why. Now, Washington, they do allow the 3rd most rebounds to forwards on the season, right? So it's a good matchup, and that's if Washington was at full strength. They've got no Shakira Austin in the mix, so it looks like the Mystics are going to play a guard-heavy rotation, or they're going to play those scrubs from the back of the bench. Either way, Angel's going to have a much easier rebounding matchup that she has been seeing lately. She's played Washington twice, recording 11 and 14 rebounds in both of those games with an average of 33 minutes of action. Post the Olympic break, we've seen her minutes increase, and averaging at 35, but in her last 2 games, 37 minutes per game. Keeping in mind for the W, it's 40-minute game, so she's pretty much going to be there from start to finish. 35 to 37 minutes for Angel. And I actually think she's going to get 20 rebounds again. She's just that type of girl. So let me know what you guys think. Angel Reese, 14.5 rebounds. Is it too high? Are you game enough to take the over with me? Let me know in the comment section. I want to hear from you. Jumping to the next game, though. I've got the Dream versus the Storm. All of these, the next 3 games, all start at the same time. So we're getting to the Dream versus the Storm first. This one, along with Brittany Sykes, was an initial lean that I had, and then I ended up taking it anyway. But we're looking at Tina Charles, and I'm taking it over 15.5 points. I was also looking at her points plus rebounds prop as well, but sticking with the points for this demonstration. Now, post the Olympic break, Tina Charles has been a fucking monster. She's seen a massive uplift in her minutes. We've seen her points and her rebounds absolutely skyrocket. A key reason for this is minutes and opportunities. You can see it here. Comes back for the Olympic break, 29 and then 30-plus minutes in every single game. This dream team, they're missing a lot of bigs, so I expect Tina Charles to get about close to 35 minutes. Now, looking at her last 5 games, these are the key ones. She's covered in 3 out of 5 games. What I love about Tina Charles, never saw a shot she didn't like. So that volume is really good, 15.2 attempts. It's all about percentages and getting the right matchups. And talking about matchups, she's got a great one here against the Storm. They do allow the 3rd most points to centers in the season. She did recently play the Storm. It was her first game post the Olympic break. In that game, she scored 16 points, but she only played 29 minutes. And she only played 29 minutes because Naz Hillman had the game of her life. She was killing it. She had 13 rebounds in 33 minutes. I don't expect that type of production from her in this game. There'll be more Tina Charles minutes, more action, more opportunities. On top of that, Alicia Gray, who's probably the 2nd highest scorer on this dream team, she got elbowed in the face in the last game, and she's questionable with a back injury. So it wasn't the big elbow that got her. It might have been the fall. But regardless, she's questionable. In that last game against the Fever, the minute Alicia Gray stepped off the court, Tina Charles went crazy, became the number 1 option on offense, and scored a whole lot of buckets. I'm hopeful Alicia Gray doesn't play. Even if she doesn't, I think this is good. But if Alicia Gray doesn't play, this line's going to move up. So I'm jumping on this nice and early. I think she can hit it with her, but if she is not there, it feels like this is almost in the bag. This Seattle team, they give up points to centers. They also give up the 3rd most points in the paint. The risk in her rebound line, I'll call this one out early. The risk in her rebound line is that Tina Charles isn't playing the 5 at the moment. She's actually playing the 4. So for this matchup, she'll most likely pick up Onyeka Ogwumike, and she tends to play on the outside, so it might be a little bit more difficult for Tina Charles to get those boards. But in terms of points, I'm with it all day. And if Alicia Gray's confirmed out, Tina Charles is going to drop 20 points. You heard it here first. Now, the next play, we're staying in the same game. And I've been loving betting on this girl at the moment because she'll be getting me paid, Ryan Howard. So I think the last 2 games that she's played, we've laddered her 3-pointer prop. She's been cashing quite nicely. But today, looking at her rebound prop, looking at the over 4.5, checking that out now. Now, when I got on this, it was close to plus money. You'll probably find it's minus 130 by the time everybody else gets on it, but that's why it pays to be in the VIP. Ryan Howard over 4.5 rebounds. Now, if you take a look at this graph that I'm showing you right now, she's only over in 2 out of her last 5 games post the Olympic break. And if we look at her season, she's covered this in 9 out of 19 games. So you can see by looking at this graph how inconsistent she is, which is why most people probably won't bet it unless some idiot like me comes along and tells you to. Now, why do I like this play for Ryan Howard? Well, for starters, this matchup is excellent because the Storm, they aren't a great rebounding team. They're actually in the bottom 3 in terms of rebound rankings, which might come to a surprise to some people given how well they're doing on the season. They also play a 4-out offense. If you don't know what a 4-out offense is, it means one of the traditional bigs plays out on the perimeter, which is Onyeka, and they've got the 5-man, which is Ezi Magbagor. She's just running around setting screens, pretty much. But they play a 4-out, meaning they stretch the floor and they create more opportunities. That's why their offense is so good. How that impacts a defensive team, it means it might be harder for those bigs to get rebounds because they're further away from the rim. What that means is the player who's chasing Ezi Magbagor around or whoever's sitting on the weak side most likely going to get a lot of those rebounds. That person on the weak side in this game is going to be Ryan Howard. Now, how do I know that? Because Ryan Howard ain't fast enough to pick up either Jewel Lloyd or Skylar Diggins, and she ain't big enough to handle Onyeka or Ezi Magbagor. She's going to play the 3. I think it's Horston who plays the 3. She makes 0.7 3-pointers per game. She's not a massive 3-point threat, which means Ryan Howard can slack off a little bit, get on that weak side, and collect some easy defensive rebounds like she did the last time they played. When the last time they played, Ryan Howard got 8 rebounds in that game. It was not a fluke. It went the way that it happened was how I just explained it to you. She's also covered this in 4 straight games against the Storm. 3 of these were last season, so not putting too much stock into that. But I've also crunched the numbers looking at Ryan Howard's play against the bottom 5 rebounding teams. Now, against the worst rebounding teams in this league, she's covered this line in 5 out of 8 games this season, averaging 5.5 rebounds. So I'm loving Ryan Howard to go over 4.5. I might even have a player to get 7, but 4.5, definitely do it. Ryan Howard over 4.5 rebounds. Now we're jumping into the Mercury versus the Lynx. And for this particular game, I didn't love too much on the board, if I'm being honest with you. What I did like is Nafisa Collier, though. And I'm looking at over 31.5 points and rebounds for Nafisa. I fucking buckled that. But I even butchered that. I can't even pronounce shit today. Nafisa Collier, over 31.5 points and rebounds. She's covered this in 3 out of her last 5 games post the Olympic break. 34.8 points plus rebounds per game is an average. She's got an excellent matchup here against the Mercury. They're undersized at her position, and they absolutely suck defensively. Now, she's covered this in 2 out of 3 games against the Mercury this season. You can see it right here, 25, 32, and 37. In terms of how Nafisa gets buckets, she scores a lot of points on catch and shoots in the post, plus she gets to the free throw line as well. Now, the Mercury rank towards the bottom of the league in all of these categories. The Mercury allow a ton of boards, and against the bottom 3 rebounding teams in the league, Collier averages close to 12 rebounds per game. So I'm taking her recent scoring form and the strong rebounding matchup, putting those things together, and I like her to go over the 31.5. If you don't have the 31.5 available, I'd say the safest pivot is probably the rebounds. If you check out her rebounds, look what she's done against the Mercury. 5 straight games. The Mercury give up the most rebounds in the league. Nafisa's Collier, she's covered this in 3 straight games. The over 10.5 rebounds is a plus money play as well. So this is a nice pivot if you can't get the points and rebounds. I like the points and rebounds purely because of what she's done as of late scoring. Check out these last 5. 17, 30, 23, 27, and 31. Her scoring form lately has been crazy. And this Mercury team, I don't expect them to slow her down. So taking the points and rebounds, but I'll leave it up to you to make your own decisions on what you want to do with it. So those are 7 of my best straight bets for this upcoming slate. If we get 4 of those, we're in profit on straight bets. But if we get 4 of those, plus the value plays and the high value singles that I've cooked up, we're going to be laughing. There's potential here for a 30 to 40 unit day if only a couple things fall my way. So if you're interested in checking out all of those WNBA picks, all my parlays, my same game parlays, my high value singles, and how I put those things together to drive as much profit as I can by betting a little bit, subscribe to the basketball plan that I have on Winnable. 60% off if you use the code SWISH. It's in the video description below, and I'll put it in the pinned comment for you. I appreciate it if you made this far. Best of luck to you.